topic, the new middle class, America's working poor or arrested development. As the King's family's perspective, we find it necessary to begin our stance by labeling the question too narrow in its concepts. We say this because it presupposes only economic achievement as relevant. But the problem is, we're not dealing with statistics and figures. We're dealing with people whose lives are more complex than numbers you can punch into an Excel spreadsheet. And when we solve this deeply seated cultural problem, in ways I will explain to you later, then we will finally cease from defining a section of our middle class as the working poor. And we will give people the tools to liberate their development as human beings and not just economic pawns. The reason we categorize this as a cultural problem stems from two concepts. The first, culture is the only place in which the understandings, traits, and predispositions of an entire group of people can be manifested openly, and to some extent, they're uncensored. The second reason, we have analyzed these shared meanings in cultural traits and their effect on our daily lives. And this is what we have found. The popular rapper Drake lays out a song where he defines success. He says, I want the money, money in the cars, cars in the clothes, the girls. I just want to be successful. Now, according to popular culture and songs like that, and the use of the terms working poor and arrested development, there's an assumed superiority complex for people who do have these things. To say that if you do have them, you are better than somebody who does not. And if you do not have them, then you better work as hard as you can to get it. How different is that than the words of Dr. Martin Luther King when he talks about the youthful rejection of cultural norms during the Civil Rights Era? He says, they abandoned those values when they put wealth in a secondary role, when they took off their Brooks Brothers attire and put on overalls to work in the isolated rural South. The answer to that question is that these two options are much different. But now, you're asking yourselves, what part do I play in this? I'm better than what you're telling me. I know the difference between cultural norms and what is real. Well, our answer to you is that culture is very real. Very real. Or as Edward T. Hall says, the funny thing about culture is that it hides more than it reveals. And what it hides most effectively from its own participants. So now continue to ask yourselves, are you really better than this? Do you really know the difference? Let's think about the decisions we make day in and day out. I'll use myself as an example. I go to college to get a better job. I pick the major that has the best job opportunities. 40 years ago, according to Abraham Maslow's studies of human development, 40 years ago, 70% of college students went to school in hopes of becoming self-actualized. That is, in hopes of reaching their full potential. Now, the average college student of 40 or 50 years ago would be considered crazy in today's environment. You would deem them crazy. But let us not forget that one of these college students did say, I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I want to leave a committed life behind. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can heal somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. Is that crazy? Is that crazy? You probably know who said this. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.